prior to that, I've been through so many interviews. I stood in front of crowds before. It's never been a problem. But there, I was like, I've never stood in front of this many people on a stage before in my entire life. So, and I was not ready. I did not have a speech prepared. I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna be very self. If people don't like it, fuck off. Like that's not a problem.
Okay, and the game award goes to SonicFox, everybody.
Welcome to Visionaries. I'm your host, Jacob Wolf. Twice a week, we host interviews with some of the most powerful and influential people in gaming, new media, and the internet. Today, we're welcoming on SonicFox. If you're not familiar with them, here's a quick resume. SonicFox won 6 titles over the years at the Evolution Championship Series, the largest fighting game tournament in the world. And what's more impressive? They've won those titles in 5 different games, some of which share no similarities in skill set. But SonicFox's influence is bigger than just the games. In 2018, the Game Awards named them the Esports Player of the Year. In their acceptance speech, dressed head to toe in their fursuit, SonicFox said this, quote, "I'm gay, black, a furry, pretty much everything a Republican hates, and the best esports player of the whole year," end quote. Pretty soon, SonicFox's legend would expand much further than just fighting games. Even pop star Lil Nas X is a fan. So SonicFox, welcome to Visionaries.
Guess all I gotta really say is that I'm gay, black, a furry, pretty much everything a Republican hates, and the best esports player of the whole year, I guess. Thank you so much.
I'm assuming if you're in the space, you're very familiar. The most dominant fighting game player in the world across a handful of titles and many medals in their illustrious career. Sonic, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I have to do an interview. No, I'm doing all right.
Good. Yeah, we were just reminiscing about the last time, and the audience will probably find a kick in this. The last time we did an interview pre-COVID was at EVO 2019, in which we had an ESPN producer run a lavalier microphone up through your fursuit head and attach it to your, I think the tongue was where we ended up lodging it in. Yeah, because we were trying to get the clearest audio through a fursuit. That was an experiment. I think we had to use some tape and stuff too to get it to stick, but it worked.
We made it work.
It worked.
Yeah. We made it work.
So why don't we start there? What has the last couple of years been like for you, with obviously the pandemic sort of throwing a wrench in the offline fighting game events and sort of your domain? But what has the last couple of years been like, and how's it been getting back into things now with offline events kind of returning and being more safe?
Well, the last couple of years, I think pre-COVID and leading up to COVID, right when it happened, it kind of sucked because this is what's there to do, right? And maybe start focusing more on Skullgirls, especially knowing that there's more content coming to the game. So that was a silver lining for COVID. VR chat saved, or 100% saved my life in terms of my social lists. And to this day, I still play almost every day. I play 6-7 hours of VR chat almost every day religiously now because I love that game so much. And I started focusing YouTube a bit more for COVID because it's there's not going to be any tournaments. I mean, I still got to put out stuff, right? I had to go from a competitor, it's just a pure competitor, to a content creator. And now, in between those days, now I've been kind of a mix now. So I'm both a competitor and a content creator. I still like to lean more to competitive side. But you'll notice that I have a lot more videos on my YouTube than usual since COVID. And I've just been focusing that a bit more. I did keep playing Mortal Kombat 11 a little bit for COVID, but the last tournament I ever participated in, even though it was even during COVID, was Replay, and then that's when I was pretty done with the game. When I entered that Evo, I legit didn't practice the game seriously for a whole year. I only entered that Evo because people really wanted me to play, and I was just fine, and I got fifth, so that was pretty cool. But other than that, I've been mainly focusing on playing Skullgirls and just perpetually in the waiting zone for whatever the next NetherRealm Studios project is. I announced the game already. And Project L. I think those two games are going to be the games that really blow up in the FGC, and I'm gonna be literally replaying it like you thought I was on the grind now? Like, you guys got another thing coming.
A lot of the people that watch and listen to this pod on YouTube and on AOD, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc., are not, I think, based off the audience data we've seen, are not super hardcore into esports in the way that maybe the audience here in Twitter is. So for their purposes, can you walk through sort of the success as succinctly as you can, success you've had over your career, when that started, and how quickly it evolved into being, as such a repeated champion in the way that you were?
Well, I could say, like, I guess the start of my career was like when I was like 13, going to tournaments, and like my third tournament is when I won a major for Mortal Kombat 9. I was like 13, I believe. 13, yeah. And that was like when the start of when I started like really, really getting like a lot of notoriety. Like I started like winning a lot more tournaments, winning a lot more majors, and then the second year of Injustice 1 for EVO, when I first went there, that was my very first EVO. My very first EVO that I won was for Injustice 1. And yeah, like I said, imagine like it's the first time you're ever going to an EVO tournament, and you win it at the age of like what, 15, something like that. I believe I was 14 when I won my first EVO in Injustice 1. And then from then on, I just started like getting stronger and stronger. MKX came out, won the following EVOs for that. I mean, MKX with all the like ESL and like just all that like tournament like prize money just started coming in. Like people started taking note, like, wow, like the FGC just randomly like exploded. And then I became extremely successful at those games. And then over the years, like I finally got picked up by some really strong prominent teams like SonicFox and now Evil Geniuses. And it's just been, I've been being dominant ever since. And I mean, the competition is definitely getting harder, I will say, but that just means I gotta keep on my toes a bit more. But I've been having success since I was, like I say, the age of 13.
To contextualize for those kind of unfamiliar, what's more impressive about your dominance than anything is the fact that many of the titles that you're very good at aren't alike. So there are the NetherRealm titles, right? Injustice and the Mortal Kombat series, which share some connective tissue in their programming. They have similar play styles, right? There's transferable skills and from one game to another. But something like Skullgirls or something like Dragon Ball FighterZ, which you were very good at for a long period of time as well after its release, are very different. They are very different styles of play, and it would be like someone being good at tennis and being good at golf.
Yeah,
they like,
correct.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some like muscle development that's shared between the arm motion, but like, the mental focus is totally different. The game is totally different.
All the things you have to consider, all the volatility of it, all the matchup knowledges, and like the way the game flow is just all completely different. It's definitely like comparing like football to like tennis for sure.
Yeah, that's why I said tennis and golf, because I think, like I'm sure there's some muscle memory there that's useful, like, but at the same time, you're not going to be a master at both. What is the secret? Because I think that's been the $1 million question for you for years now, is like, what is the secret? Because you feel so enigmatic in that way that nobody can touch you. Nobody can do the same thing. So what is the secret?
I really feel like the secret is just like having the motivation to play a game. Like I really do feel that anybody can be good at anything if they really will their mind to do so. And the various amount of fighting games that I play are really no different. Sure, like Skullgirls is like completely night and day to a game like Mortal Kombat, but like if Mortal Kombat 11 players really wanted to sit there and like try to learn Skullgirls, they could. Like I have full faith they can learn Skullgirls and become very strong players, and vice versa. Like I think anybody can play any game that they want to, so long as they have the mindset and willpower to. I love fighting games, so I'll play almost any fighting game. And I'm very competitive by nature. Like when I lose, I'm like, man, this guy isn't shit, right? So like I really want to like be the best at almost any game that I want to play. Or like my mindset is even when I go into a brand new genre as an underdog, my mindset is like I want to take on the top players at least once and show them that I can stick with them. And then if I still like the game after that, then that's another story. And you see me do that for various games, like Guilty Gear Strive. I even did it for Street Fighter V. I do that for various games, but games that I'm super passionate about, I'm like, no, I want to stay on top. Like, for example, Skullgirls, Mortal Kombat to a point. I'm the only reason I stopped playing MK11 is because the developers kind of just left it in the dust out of nowhere. Like, I had so much huge potential, and they kind of just like left it to the winds, and I was really upset about that. So I stopped playing because it's just like it kind of felt like a big middle finger to us. So, but I typically, like I said, it comes down to just having that passion and having that motivation to want to keep playing a game that you love and enjoy. Ultimately, I think is the secret, and you can be good at anything.
The first time you and I met in person, Evo 2016, you had a very uncharacteristic moment, and I want to talk about that to have a broader conversation about fame and pressure and everything else that comes with being a top-level competitor in your shoes. In that moment, in the series that you were playing against Tekken Master, that was sort of his kind of coming out party in terms of being as good as he was. It's his big moment and showing in a tournament. And I remember the set, the both of you in that arena, in the Evo arena in Vegas, you taking the beanie that you had, the SonicFox beanie, and throwing it to the ground, like very forcefully in the middle of the set, because you were getting your ass handed to you for a little bit there, and it was so unlike you, because I think the one thing that many people know about your career is not only are you dominant, you're very composed, very good at keeping it together in those high pressure kind of pressure cooker moments. What made you snap? And I would say the second part of that I want to ask is, how have you been able to keep that composure in those moments where you have, in that case, tens of thousands of people sitting there watching you as you try your best to go after what you want to win and achieve?
Well, I do have to make one slight correction. I didn't throw the hat. I don't get like frustrated by throwing the hat. I took the hat off and I calmly set it down because it was afraid. And the first time it was because the reason that was so significant is because nobody's ever really made me like do that before. So
right.
I took the hat off and I sat down and I sat there thinking, like, how the hell do I beat this dude? Like, he's playing so good and now he's up in a bracket reset and now I'm panicking because I don't like. It's like, what do I do? So I had to give myself like time to compose, to think about what was going on, and I sat up, I thought about it, and then I was like, play again. I can do this. I can beat you. You're not as powerful as you think you are. And ever since then, like because of my experience and where I've been, it doesn't matter how big the Evo stage is. I've been there. I've been of the top in every single competition that I've ever played. It comes down to having that mental fortitude and just relaxing and just playing the game. Even in some like high level matches, like again at We Play, for example, against Tekken Master as well, where it was like 4-4 last, like literally the next hit, somebody's gonna win or the bracket is gonna reset, right? And I'm the one that has to reset the bracket, so it's like. And it was really funny because they had heartbeat monitors, and unfortunately, I didn't have like mine on. But I promise everybody, there was a really, really serious critical moment where it's like, next hit, somebody's gonna die, and I can hear everyone in the background screaming, like they don't know what's gonna happen. It's like a really intense moment. I promise you, my heartbeat was only at like 70. Like I was so calm and composed in that scenario. And I think because I think because I had the composure over Tekken Master, he made a huge critical error, and I ended up like beating him for it, resetting the bracket, and then winning the whole event from that point. It just comes, like I said, it comes down with experience. I never like, there's always a lot on the line, but I'm also having so much fun. Like when I'm in those serious like panicky moments, I'm always just like, damn, this dude is putting me through it. Like, but it's like almost like a masochistic like kind of like rush that I feel. I'm like, this is so thrilling. Like I can't get enough of it. So that's why it's like I'm having so much fun. So like, win or lose, like I can't be mad because like this is so fun. So, and I'm always happy for my opponent that ever bests me. But I mean, I'm always a little salty too. But like I'm typically like I have so much fun in those scenarios. So I love it when people are like, capable of beating me up. So.
Yeah, you're a good competitor. That's the best part. Even humble in defeat, and gracious in victory. That's I think that's the saying. So, on that note, that composure. I know you mentioned the experience. Was it always like that, or was that built by that repetition? Like that first Evo that you won all those years ago as a teenager. Was that still there, or were you nervous out your ass and then just after time it kind of got slowly reduced?
I think I was definitely super nervous at for example, my very first major, I was super nervous, right? But come Injustice 1 Evo, like I've been around enough events to know, like, especially feeling that pressure of trying to win your first major, like I know what I had to do to compose myself at that point. And so despite losing, and being on a big stage like that, I was like, I was really, really composed. I was like, I can do anything, right? And I will do anything that I need to win. So having that composure and I guess like over the years, it's like it became easier and easier and easier. Like obviously, everyone still gets tournament nerves, even I do. But I typically know how to quell them. But there are certain tournaments where I'm just like, it's obvious I'm playing shaky. So I have to be really careful. Like for example, after COVID happened, and then when tournaments started coming back at like huge majors, like I started feeling like that really anxious feeling, because I just haven't competed in so long, and so like it was like, damn, I have to relearn how to like compose myself again. But because of my recent competitions, I've been able to do that again, and now I've been seeing the success I've wanted to. Because it's really annoying that I kept getting a lot of second places over like the last year and a half, and so when I was able to win Skullgirls at Evo, it was like, yes, like finally.
You definitely have a lot riding on your shoulders at any given time. I want to talk about not the pressure of the game, but the pressure of the fame and the pressure that comes with being a public figure and doing that at such a young age. That's the other part of your career that's really fascinating, is how quickly you became very hyper relevant to a certain part of the industry. How have you dealt with that, being famous and having people look up to you and I mean, idolize you? I don't think that's a far-fetched statement to say in some instances.
It definitely made me have to like close up my net of groups and friends that I had to like I could trust, because like before it was kind of just like, like I wasn't really seen as like some idol or like some pedestal. I was just like, some dude that was a furry and was really good at fighting games. But then when I like won the esports game of the year, player of the year for 2018, that's when like everything exploded. I was like, ah, shit. So honestly, like I could do without the fame, but like the fame is also what brings in the money. So I mean, it's a curse and a blessing, I guess. But I've learned to be more like I can't be as like what's the word I'm putting for this? I can't be as asshole-ish as I used to be a long time ago. I did have to grow up a little bit with a lot of him, because with influence comes responsibility, and it took me a while to realize that. But that's why I've been a lot more humble instead of like how like I guess like shit talky I used to be. It's because there's a lot of people that are looking up to you, and like it's really weird because people form like a lot of weird like parasocial relationships with you, and so like any slight like thing that you say that just rubs them the wrong way, it's like, oh, this guy's a piece of shit, and like it's fucked up because they'll tell all their friends that like you're a piece of shit over one thing that inconvenienced them. It's really annoying actually, because it's like a lot of people just make like have these like judgments and opinions of you that are just inherently like not true about you, and it happens, and not just me, but to everyone. So it's like that's one thing I could definitely do without the fame, but like I've become so numb to it that when somebody feels that way, I'm just like, oh, you're just like an idiot. Like that doesn't bother me anymore. But like I said, it just takes time to like really come into it, and like I always say, keep your close knit of friends closer, and you can take on the world from then.
Yeah, the parasocial relationship stuff has been something we've been covering on the show in a lot of past episodes. It's something we like, even in the second episode of this show, talked with Atrioc, the large creator who kind of comes from the fighting game community originally as well.
It's really bad, because it's like literally like somebody just says like it's like you just being you and like trying to live your like daily life, and then you just find people trying to like dissect your entire like history of like whatever, or trying to find anything bad in your past that you've ever done. I'm like, bro, like touch grass. What is wrong with you? Like you're never gonna be friends, and nobody's gonna really give a shit after you like do your like 5-minute call out post. After like 2 days, nobody's gonna give a shit anymore, and it happens like all the time. And if you really think people give a shit, then they will actually come out and protest me if they actually care. But they don't. It's just Twitter points, and like it's annoying, and I hate it. But you eventually get used to it.
Well, the hardest part of that, being someone who's young as well, and I think we're relatively the same age. I'm 25.
24.
And being as young as we are, with the amount of like success behind us, etc., is the hardest part is that we grow. We're in stages of growth. Most like 24 and 25-year-olds are like still trying to get their shit together in their lives, right?
And the thing is, I got like that success I experienced when I was like 20. So and the thing is, it's like sure, you're an adult, but like, are you really? Like, honestly, like I feel like you're truly like really grown up when you're like at least like 25 at least, like because even even when you're 20, you still don't get to do all the things that adults are actually allowed to do. So I say you're like grown, but like you're not really like an adult. Like I feel like when you're coming out of like you don't just turn 18 and like now great, like you're just like just full grown mature. Like no, like there's still a lot of like teenager things and like habits you need to like beat out of yourself. And I'm no different. I had to beat them out of myself. But
exactly, I mean, you're like you're learning through those living experiences, and most people get to go to college and be dumbasses and like get to understand and like comprehend those living experiences themselves. Like some of us don't have that opportunity. It's hard when you're like a young famous public figure because it's like we have to learn in front of everyone else while they're all watching around us.
And it doesn't help that I actually have like a mental illness that like actually like really makes that really difficult too. Because for the audience and some of the people that don't know, I'm schizoaffective. So like, I mean, like I already have like that like hard issue of like trying to understand and learn from other people, and I like way harder than a lot of other people have to. And so because I like I tend to learn by like trial by fire, if you will, and learn by experience. Like it took me a while to get to here essentially, and like be like very happy to be around people and be able to like socially interact with people a lot more than I was like maybe like 5-6 years ago. But so even then, it's like a lot of people don't know that, and so like they try to nitpick at everything from like my past and a long time ago. I'm like, bro, why? Like, and that's like a biggest thing too. Is like, what does that accomplish, right? Like just like a half-ass like apology post that you want? Like, no, like I can just show you with my actions that I don't act that way anymore. It's like it's dumb. So fuck parasocial relationships. It's annoying. Don't do it.
You mentioned earlier the 2018 Game Awards moment, and as someone who had interviewed you several times before that, you're as dominant as a competitor you were back in 2016, 2017, 2018. You were fairly shy when we would sit you down in front of a camera with a big crew, and like I think it took you a little bit to kind of get comfortable in that zone. That 2018 Game Awards moment, clearly, like, if you go back, I went back and watched it yesterday for this to prep for this interview, and like clearly you're very nervous and like you can tell it's kind of coming off, but at the same time, what you said was like one, badass, and two, just like very like emotive, right? Like it's just very like you don't care, and I think that's one of the things that most people respect about you the most is like you are your true self, and you can either get on board with it or you can buzz off, and like that is an admirable trait.
That had to be learned, like I said, and like definitely like, and I even during that like the game of the year awards, like I felt like I was really confident about standing in front of crowds and everything, and then like you get up on that stage, you're like, oh shit, there's so many people in here, what the fuck? And I think that would honestly that would catch anybody off guard. Like I said, and prior to that, I've been through so many interviews. I stood in front of crowds before. It's never been a problem. But there, I've never stood in front of this many people on a stage before in my entire life. So I was not ready. I did not have a speech prepared. I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna be myself. If people don't like it, fuck off. Like that's not a problem.
Yep. Well, and you said in that speech, Barry, and I think you're right. You're right to recognize that that's the moment, the cultural touchstone moment for you. All of us in esports appreciated what you were doing, appreciated the work that you were putting into the games, and the legacy that you were creating up to that point.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but at that point also, like, to like cite what you said, you're like, I'm gay, black, and a furry. Everything a Republican hates. And I'm the best fucking fighting game player in the world, if I remember correctly. Maybe that's a slight paraphrase, but that was basically it, which was like a huge moment. And I think that you're right to recognize that is the cultural touch point, that it was like, hello, like I've always been myself, but now I'm myself in front of millions.
It flipped a lot of people on their head. A lot of people got really pissed off, but even more people were like, this dude is fucking godlike. And that's what I was there for the people that supported me. And the rest, I was just like, am I wrong? But
no, you're not wrong. But but I think I remember, because there were a lot of people at ESPN that like wanted to do a bigger story on you when I was working there at the time, and I remember we would like would send around, like, people were like, oh, what do we need to know about this person? And we would send, like, sort of the resume. Here's all these things that you've won. Here's all the success you have. But they're not gamers. They don't understand the complexities of what you just did. Yeah. But we're like, here's this moment where this person just, like, went out there and was just like, screw the world. I am me, and I'm on top of my game, and I'm the best at what I do. And it was awesome. It's a great moment. But I want to talk about in the broader context of pushing that cultural boundary. There's so many things wrong with esports. Chief among them, it is not a diverse industry at all. It has a ton of issues with diversity. And I think that you saying that and living that and talking about it so openly in that way is very good for the industry in a lot of different ways. Is that something that you thought about before that moment in terms of like kind of pushing this social movement forward and kind of opening the conversation more broadly before you actually said it on that stage?
Yeah, a little bit, but I was just like, I'm just gonna say what's come to mind. But fun fact, Ed Boon's always sitting there. I was talking with Ed Boon Fire, and like there's always this thing where he always wants me and almost anything to go on stage. He's like, I just want you to go up there and just say "fuck the police." Like I don't know why he wants you to say it so much, but he does. And I was like, I got you, but I'll say I'm gay, black, and furry, and everything Republican hates. He's like, he's like, oh, say that, please say that. I was like, Ed Boon, I got you. If I win this award, I got you, Ed Boon. Watch me. And I went on stage and I said it because I won it. At first I was like, oh shit, I actually won it. And then second, I was like, you know what? I promised one of my favorite like fighting game producers ever that I was like do this. So here we go.
Did you understand though in that moment what that meant? I'm sure you do now.
Yeah, I knew exactly what would happen if I did that, and I did it anyways because it had to be said. So,
is it now kind of all these years later, having time to reflect, building especially now that you're going more into content creation, right, and some of the things that you've been doing in downtime as we've all been separated. Is that something that is like a kind of, obviously your identity is your identity, but pushing it forward for other people, being a good example, kind of normalizing everything as well? Is that something that you think about when you're creating content, the way that you speak, the way that you write, talk, everything else, and the way that you're creating?
The way I try to present almost any content creation that I do is that I want to ultimately be being myself, and that's what I wanted to express to other people, is that you're being authentically yourself. Like, I don't want to start doing content creation where it's just like I start acting like, for example, like they make me start doing like military like salutes or some shit like that, because that's just not me, right? Or like making me like do like really generic shit. Like that is not me. All right. I always want to make sure that when I am doing my content, it looks like I'm having fun, because I am having fun and I'm being myself and I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And I want people to learn that whenever they're doing whatever they're doing, that you make sure you're having fun with it. Sometimes like you have to do stuff outside the box and outside of like what you're willing to do, and I'm no different. But ultimately, like any content that I try to produce, I want to make sure I am being myself, and that message is being clear.
Taking a quick break from this episode to have a word from our sponsors. The journey of my career has been pretty fast-paced. I started writing at 17, and within 16 months, I went from having never written a published article to landing a job at ESPN as their youngest talent hire ever. With that fast-paced career, I've often found myself struggling with imposter syndrome and with work-related anxiety. But over the past few years, seeing a therapist really helped me guide my way. And if you think you may be feeling depressed, stressed, anxious, and overwhelmed, then today's sponsor, BetterHelp, is here to help you. BetterHelp offers licensed therapists who are trained to listen and help you. Talk to your therapist in a private online environment whenever's convenient for you. And if you're like me, where it seems there's never enough time in the day, you understand how important that convenience is. There's a broad range of expertise in BetterHelp's 20,000 plus therapist network that gives you access to help that may not be available in your area. Finding a therapist can be hard, but BetterHelp simplifies that experience. You start by filling out a questionnaire to assess your specific needs, and within 48 hours, BetterHelp will match you with a therapist. From there, it's easy. Schedule video and phone sessions, message your therapist as much as you want, whenever you need to, and everything you share is completely confidential. You can request a new therapist at no additional charge anytime. I've been seeing my therapist Diane for 4 years now, and when we reflect back on the progress I've made in my life for the better, it's a pleasant reminder of why I started seeking help and the goals I had when we first started working together. Join the 3 million plus people who've taken charge of their mental health with an experienced BetterHelp therapist. Get your 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/visionaries. That's betterhelp.com patreon.com/visionaries. More recently, and I want to know if this was an organic interaction, because I know the two of you have met and interacted before. More recently, we saw Lil Nas X share that they had online prior to the more recent moment. Okay, that's what I meant. Yes. So more recently, the random picture of the SonicFox plushie. Obviously, you were very ecstatic about that on social media, reading your tweets about it. Walk me through that. What was that moment like to be recognized by someone who, in a similar way, has kind of been paving that path and normalizing a lot of different conversations around being a black gay man as well in their case? And talk to me about that. What it was like to be acknowledged by someone of that status and fame.
I got you. So, I have interacted with Lil Nas X prior to that before, right? And like he followed me prior. It was off a really funny joke about like this really cursed Black Mirror episode called Striking Vipers. If you guys don't know, okay, but like it was a really cursed interaction. I was like, "Yo, Lil Nas X, let's play a fighting game." He's like, "Sure, you want to see me in Striking Vipers?" And I was like, "What the fuck?" Right? And then he followed me afterwards because I guess he just fucked with my vibe. But leading up all the way up down to Evo, I can remember exactly where I was when what I was doing when I was just relaxing. I was actually playing poker, right? I was sitting there playing at a poker table, and I looked at my phone and I saw somebody message me, and I was like, "Who the fuck is this dude?" Right? Because I saw the name, it was like Maserati, but I didn't like register in my mind like that it was Lil Nas X, right? All I saw was like the preview of the message, right? And I was like, oh, this is probably just some other like verified user just saying something to me on and getting into my Twitter notifications from my post Evo win, right? And it didn't bother me. I was just like, oh, this is probably just somebody like random, just like talking about like something random on my that actually happens every day, right? So I put my phone away and I continued like playing poker for 30 more minutes, and I finally go back to my room, and then I actually open the message. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Right? Because I actually open it and I just see Lil Nas X is holding my plushie. I'm like, I'm legit pausing. Like, if my boyfriend saw me in that room, I was legit just jumping around and like dancing, bro. I was like, bro, I was in such a literally that weekend couldn't have gone more perfect. I was there with my boyfriend. I won my favorite fighting game tournament in the world, and then my favorite celebrity in the world has one of my plushies. Like, bro, like everything went perfect there. It was like, what is going on? So when I saw he had one of my plushies, I was like, you are trolling. How did you even get one of these? This is so fucking sick.
That's awesome.
He is somebody I really want to meet, because not only do I actually think we get along based off of like what the messages him and I try to do on our platforms, I just like from seeing how he presents himself and seeing how he it's not to talk about parasocial relationships, but seeing how he presents himself and like seeing like the things he does and it's like the weirdness that he has behind him. It's something I heavily appreciate, and like I just think our personalities would just like align really well. Like I think if we met, we'd become really good friends.
There are a lot of musicians as well who are just massive nerds, and I would consider him on that list. Like there are others too who are like.
To me, I think he's a low-key furry. So like.
I like it was Post Malone now like doing promotions with like Magic the Gathering, and like it also like lived in the streamer house before he got famous. I'm like, so many of these like high profile musicians, if they're of a certain age, there's some root in gaming and the internet somewhere in there. Like, and I think that's why our community resonates with them in a way that it does.
And seeing the way he's been growing, like he's obviously experiencing it on like a way huge level than I have, but like knowing what I had to go through and then how I grew up to fame, and then like watching that happen before him, it's like legit. Like I was like watching how I did it and how I went through it, and like I said, he probably goes through so much more like suffering and harassment than I do, but it's like
he's on the evangelical radar, which is a whole nother.
I'm like down here. He's like all the way up there somewhere. But like, I get it, right? Like, I get it, and I understand. Like some like, and a lot of people give him shit for like some of the things he doesn't do right, and I'm just like, bro, he's still young and like he's still learning. And like,
what we were just talking about.
And I need to tell people like, I think like you need to understand when somebody ultimately has a good heart and has good faith, and like they can learn and grow instead of like just trying to like cancel somebody over something just like honestly that's really minor. So Yeah, but watching him grow and then be himself and like give out those messages of just like, yeah, fuck the world, just be yourself and like just like enjoy life. Essentially, it's just been so like yes, we need more people of this, and so I'm glad there's somebody that's there in the music industry to do that.
Not to mention, also just an incredible entertainer.
He's so funny. Like it's incredible. It's like not only is his music good, his content is good too, and he's funny. Like bro, he hits all the check marks on my book.
I saw him live on his first tour. ESPN had him in invited him and Marshmello to come play the rooftop of our office in New York. I definitely could tell he was nervous because he did like 2 songs and then walked off stage and let the DJ run the rest of the show. I mean, this is the first tour. I get it, right? Like this is right after Old Town Road. So different conversation. But I get to see him live next month as well at Austin City Limits. So I'm pretty excited about that.
I do want to check out one of his tours. I haven't been able to get a ticket yet, but I mean, we'll see. Emo and Emo Man and Me gets to see like Paramore and a bunch of other things. So the teenage angst, and he's on the same ticket as them. So it's pretty exciting. Yeah. So before we go forward, again, we're having some issues pinning the tweets, so you can guys see it and respond to it. But we are going to take some audience questions here at the end. Hit me.
I'm going to ask a couple more of Sonic myself, but then we'll open up to those. Use tweet with hashtag Visionaries podcast to submit those questions to us. My team will reach out to you, and then we'll try to get you elevated up here to ask those questions. Please do that before you request to speak. I appreciate it. Makes it a little bit easier workflow wise. Cool. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about, we covered sort of how COVID affected fighting games, has covered what you've been doing. But I want to talk specifically about returning to EVO this year, and not just the context of coming back to in-game fighting or in-person fighting game competitions, because that has happened even before EVO this year, and it happened some last year as well. After the booster shot, I would say things got a little bit better. But the EVO has had an incredibly tough time, despite just the pandemic, right? They had the ouster of Mr. Wizard for alleged sexual misconduct, total change in leadership, acquisition, right? I think there were a lot of people who were very, very hesitant and worried about what EVO was going to be this year because of everything else that happened. But it seems like, and I didn't get to go this year, but it seems like watching from afar, most things went off without a hitch. It looked like a pretty normal EVO, the biggest tournament in the world in a certain genre. And, it was his thing. What was it like being back there? Did it feel different, or was it more or less the same that it always has been?
It definitely felt a little different, but like it was like a good different, if that makes sense. Like I felt like it was like nature's healing, right? It's nice seeing everyone here again. It's like seeing all the hype. It's like seeing my favorite fighting game being featured there. Like it was fun. Like I was just like, I miss this. Like when I went, I was like, I miss this, and I'm glad that nature is finally healing enough so that we can have these kind of events again, and we're just gonna endure, right? And I had full faith that EVO would be run the way that I wanted it to be, with Frick being the one of the main leads of that. And so we had water stations, we had like food everywhere. Like it was just a wonderful time. I legit had no qualms. It was huge. I had casuals to keep playing. It was fun. And then going there to go watch the Guilty Gear Strive finals. I can ask for a better tournament.
Yeah, it just seemed like everything was, I mean, the viewership is incredible, as it usually is. It's the one event that feels like it. Yeah, there always feels like there are esports events on the calendar every single year. League of Legends World Championship, Dota 2 International, EVO, etc., that sort of transcend what their sport in that sort of way, right? Like, there are a ton of people that watch EVO that don't watch Combat Breaker or CEO or any of the other big fighting game tournaments. They only tune in for that one. It is the big one. It's somewhere to the Super Bowl or the NBA finals, whatever it may be, and its respective category. And so it was good to see it back. I was definitely very worried, but yeah, definitely think Rick, a driving force of that. Rick Thayer, for those unfamiliar, also the creator of Combat Breaker, or co-creator of Combat Breaker.
Yeah. And it had security too, which is I really appreciated, because the previous EVOs I don't believe had security, so that was nice.
You talked about this a little bit earlier, but I want to touch back on it again. in terms of the priorities of your career, I'm sure winning tournaments like that is nice, but is it like end all be all now? Does winning still, is that ultimately what matters more than anything else right now for you, or is it an added bonus?
Honestly, I'm not so sure anymore. I used to be like super competitive, but like, and I still am. But I think winning in a game that I love now, I think matters the most to me. But I recently, other than Skullgirls, I don't really love too many fighting games right now because I guess it just the current fighting games that had released, excuse me, in recent years, I don't like them. But I've been mostly just trying to still keep up with all the other players despite not liking them. And now I've been just trying to just honestly get more people to play fighting games. That's just been my biggest goal. But I think winning isn't an end all and be all for me anymore. So
You mentioned some of the other fighting games, and I want to cover that ground because you sounded pretty excited about Project L earlier. It feels like, it feels like at a certain point, I remember this around Injustice 2, I remember this around Dragon Ball Fighters as well. Like, even more recently, like, people thought Nick Brawl was going to be huge.
Yeah.
I think Multiversus is like the jury's still out, but pretty good engagement from a player-based perspective. Yeah, it's definitely growing, but it feels like fighting games is ready and ripe for disruption. Like it's big among a niche set of niche being in air quotes hundreds of thousands of people that truly are infatuated and in love with these games at a competitive level. However, there are also millions of people in the world that it could touch and hasn't touched from a sort of cultural standpoint. So it feels like fighting games is always like one game away from hitting that big moment. And I want to ask, do you think, from everything you've seen, do you think something like Multiversus or Project L could be that, and why?
So hold on, my dog is barking at me. Give me one second. Loki, oh my god, Loki, go. So, you hear him barking at me. I'm gonna close my door. Okay, so to answer your question, yes, I think Multiversus could have been one of those games. I think Project L will definitely be that game, and I think the next NRS game will be that game. Because Mortal Kombat is like one of the legit most selling fighting games of all time, even more than Smash.
Yep.
And more like the content creation and views that you get on that kind of game is just unreal. And I even tell people that aren't even top players, like, bro, just make content for Mortal Kombat. Like, you're just gonna get like so many views. People love that game, right? But Project L, like League of Legends, is probably like one of the biggest game out there to exist, right? So, yep. I mean, if you make a fighting game over it, like, it doesn't matter. I think that's going to be like the big tipping point for the FGC. So I'm excited and I'm hopeful for the future, and we'll kind of see what happens with that.
What do you think the barrier is there if you were hired tomorrow as a consultant at Riot Games to sort of give feedback on this project? If you had to give advice on like programming, net play, marketing, whatever it may be, anything in the creation of a game, what do you think the barrier is there for a fighting game to transcend in that way, in a way that we have seen? I mean, League has done it, but I'm thinking like the way that Fortnite did as a cultural transcendent moment, right? Very few games hit that. That's a very special moment for any video game. What advice do you give? What do you think the barrier is there that needs to be cleared?
I think, like I said, I think they're already off to a good start. It has to be free to play. It has to have GGPO, so it's playable anywhere. It has to have a lot of single player content for the players who want to keep like wanting to play the game more. And the online has to be like the online content has to be really, really substantial as well. Having a lot of incentives for us to keep wanting to return and keep playing, even among friends, has to be fun too. Like, you can't just like, it can be a competitive game, sure, but you need to have introduce like for example, game modes that are just fun. Like I'm talking like things that aren't competitive, like 4-player modes, or things like just like really wacky, crazy game modes that should just exist, right? I've always been adamant about it because I kind of want to make my own fighting game, and those are all things that I've been keeping in mind that I want to do. So, with that being said, like, you need to make sure that you keep your players coming back for more, because if all you have to offer for online is player versus player like stuff like, and I'm talking just like it's just like a simple competitive 1v1, like that's not gonna fly. Even Mortal Kombat, like despite having competitive 1v1, they have a lot more to offer, like multiplayer, like guild missions that you can do to take on bosses together. You can take on like you can do a lot of what was the exact term that they called it? Like when you're looking for gear and like trying to learn, you can loot gear essentially with your friends, and then like even playing online, you can create these wacky, crazy, overpowered builds and like try to do that with other like things like that. Even to like a minor extent, and like even Mortal Kombat has multiple game modes to do that as well. Like if you learn by example, like take some of those notes from Mortal Kombat and just learn to make sure that the online modes have a lot of just really fun, wacky stuff to do. You can still have your competitive mode because players like me will probably just mostly play on that. But even a competitor like me, like I want to have fun sometimes too. Like I want to go and be like, you know what? Let's go and fuck around on like 2v2. Like let's go. Like I grab my teammate Sage. I'm like, let's go Sage. Let's go and like go 2v2 on these other kids and just have a good time, right? You ultimately need to make sure like people are having a good time. So.
Last point before we get to the audience questions is mobile. The one thing that a lot of people don't recognize about what was really successful about Fortnite is that it was playable on everything. You could have a terrible phone and still play it. You could have a $2,000 PC and play it, and everything in between. And I think that was the one thing that made that game really resonate. Fighting games, considering how precise they have to be in button inputs and everything else, it doesn't necessarily lend itself very well to that. I mean, there are fighting games on phones, and I've played some of them.
Arena.
They're I mean, Marvel Contest Champions, like they're fun, but like they're not. You're not going to see a competitive esports.
You don't get the substantial like the satisfaction I think you'd get from like using actual controls to like.
Yeah, I mean the best esports games are the ones that are easy to understand but difficult to master, and that's I mean fighting games lend themselves to that, right? It's easy to play them, but it's really hard to get to a level of not even yourself, even below you in terms of skill level. But like it's really hard to even hit that top percentage. So I want to ask, do you think that there's a way that a fighting game could have a mobile version that's relevant and in the ecosystem in that way?
I'm not too sure. I think having like a mobile fighting game just to like help support the main fighting game, I think is the way to go. But I don't think you could ever have a mobile fighting game that will like be a huge esports. I could be wrong, and I'm happy to see a developer prove me wrong, but I just think it's very unlikely. I think the other games that offer that kind of industry are much more engaging and much more like how can I put it, like it's easy to get into, easy to understand, and like you can win versus like making like a mobile fighting game. I don't think is like something that's easy to like win at, and then and like it even comes down to like how much creativity can you even like put into a game like that too, because like fighting games honestly demand a lot of inputs, and so it's like, I mean, how can you even like begin to even like I just think it's too hard, if that makes sense, and ultimately I don't think it's worth it, if I'm being frank. You're better off making like a game like Fortnite, for example, for a mobile game instead of making a fighting game. But I'm like I said, I'm welcome to see developers try. I can always be proven wrong, but I excuse me. From that point, I don't think it's likely.
I think what we've learned from this, and this is going to be our first audience question as well, is that someone needs to pay you for a consultancy deal and just have you come in and pick your brain on what to do.
I know what's fun in fighting games. That's why I want to make my own fighting game. So if you want to help me make a fighting game, but I have played so many fighting games. I think I know what's fun and what's not fun and what's really annoying and like what I wish would exist in games. And so please consult me. I will let you know. And I'm also a good tester too.
Well, that is going to be our first audience question. I'm going to invite Tint to speak. They tweeted, and it is exactly about that particular topic about you making your own game. So they can respond to the request. And before they get up here to talk, if you would like to ask a question, tweet it first with hashtag Visionaries Podcast, please. My team will reach out to you and take a question from you. So, you can now speak, Tint. Go ahead.
I think is also like super critical to like making a fighting game fun, like good knit code, having the engagement, like having the ability to have fun with your friends while still maintaining like competitive play. I guess, would you mind sharing or going a bit more into specifics about like if you were to make your perfect fighting game, like what are some like other must-haves or things that would look like that would really shape that game and make it like your vision in your game? Thanks.
I would say like the must-haves, like I said, free-to-play, GGPO are instant must-haves. Then I have to say single-player content has to be engaging. It has to be like it has to be fun. Like you want to have a reason to have to keep coming back. So I would even offer things like, for example, like you can see yourself progressing in a lot of your training of like even like combos and like inputs and things like that. Like there's ways to like watch your progression and like to like get it better at it. There. And then the online content has to be like super fun. So like it needs to feel like when you go online, like it's not just competitive. Like you can go and have a casual experience and be like, this is fun. I want to come back to it. And I have a really, really fun online idea that hasn't been done yet, and I'm going to keep that a secret right now. But I think that'd be pretty fun for players to do in a casual setting. So
what has stopped you? Just funding? Is that the barrier between
that and getting a team, probably?
So you just need an operator and money. So for anybody in here who has business experience, if you have funds,
started as a passion project too. Like if people are really passionate and like trust me, like I'm down to start with a passion project. But I can essentially I have all like it's like I'm the brains. Like I know what I want, and I know what would make a game fun. Now I need people that are like that can like do it. Essentially, it's like I say this, you do this, right? Like if you can do that, we'll be best friends. So
well, and we see more and more people in the esports space diversifying with game development as part of their strategy. 100 Thieves is making a game right now, a shooting game, and they're obviously actively involved in shooters. So it doesn't seem like it's a far-fetched idea to have you involved in something like that.
There's a lot of like I know I can get a lot of support by just like typing in a tweet and things like that. And there's a lot of people that I already have my foot in the door that do want to work with me if given the opportunity. It's just like I said, like ultimately, initially, even for prototyping, it's gonna have to start off as a passion project. So I would need people that are like they're serious about this, and I'm not sure who's serious about this yet. So if you're serious, DM me. But you're not,
Our next audience question is going to be from Jojo, and this is more of a advice question. So,
the phone to the mic is perfect.
Yes. Okay. See if they accept the invite. If not, I can read the question, but they said that they wanted to ask it, so I will give them a second. Jojo.
Dotaro.
There we go.
Oh, sorry. So SonicFox, I just wanted to know, what does it take to be a competitor, and how do you stop doubting yourself? Because I remember you saying at one point, sometime, I believe it was a tweet, or you said it, you were like, I got destroyed a lot to get where I am now. A lot of people look at you like a god, but you had to go through a lot. So I'm just wondering, how do you get to a point where you're just comfortable like downloading people and destroying them, and you don't look at other people like they're godlike, and you can just reach that level? Like, how do you again, just what does it take to be a competitor and have that mindset?
You need to make sure that like every single time you lose, you learn from it. Like every single time, even online, and every single time you lose, you need to make sure you're getting a piece of information. If you're losing, you don't understand why you're losing, you're wasting your time. Like full stop, you're wasting your time, right? So every single time you need to make every win, every loss, like you take that critical piece of information and you add it, and whether it's a player habit or something you learn about the matchup or something, and like ultimately try new things too. Like try things that just seem really stupid or unorthodox, because like you're not in a serious tournament settings yet, so you never know if that stupid thing will work or not in a critical moment in competition. And ultimately, anybody can be a competitor if you have the will to win. You just need to make sure you learn how to learn, which is like the most important and crucial thing. A lot of people think by going into training mode and like doing their button combos, it's all it takes. No, you need to learn how to properly learn. Like you need to understand like, what does this character do to me? How do I stop this character from doing this stuff to me? And what does it take to like really like become the best, essentially? when you learn how to learn, I think the world opens up in fighting games because it's honestly pretty simple of what you have to do. And personally, what I like to look for is like what to give you some tips is like what I like to look for in a character is like what is obviously what they're gonna do. What is obviously their best buttons, right? Like what are they gonna do for neutral? Like how are they even gonna hit you? Because like I can sit here and practice all these cool combos all I want, but I need to first learn. I'm like, how do I even hit this opponent? How do I punish them? Like, what's my fastest punisher? What's my good? Do I have a good? Does this character have a good mix up? Like all those factors. Like consider what every single option this character has, and then start learning. First, what I recommend is start learning their neutral first. Like what is their best buttons? How do I hit people, and what's like gonna obviously be really strong with this character, and then you learn combos, and then you can learn how to do like setups and mix-ups after that, and then after all of that, then you can learn how to optimize. But those are my main tips. And once you get that down and you learn how to play against matchups properly, you can. The world is your oyster.
An efficient practice, not just practice.
Yeah.
Not all practice is efficient. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so last question we're going to take from the audience, and thank you guys for everybody who's tuned in, is going to be from Sharpie.
Sharpie. Let's go Sharpie.
Yep. Sharpie is being given permission to speak, and they can ask their question. Go ahead.
Hi, Sonic. What's up? Hope you're doing well. Really happy to hear that Loki's okay, but I had a couple of questions. I just wanted to ask because I know that not only do you have skills inside of multiple games inside of the fighting game community, such as Mortal Kombat, you played Multiverses this past Evo, you obviously are very proficient inside
What's
of
the Skullgirls question, Sharpie?
Dragon Ball Fighters. It's not a Skullgirls question. My question is actually regarding some other things you've been really, really good at. Like, I know you're actually also really good at instrumentation. You previously played violin.
We had a violin off. Yeah.
We did have a violin off, yes, eons ago, which I lost because you're amazing. And also violin too. My question is, do you feel as though some of the talents that you have that allow you to excel in so many different areas of your life have also helped you grow as a person outside of gaming?
Yeah, of course. Like everything that you learn from like any other hobby or things like that can always like I feel be added to you as like a person. Like you can be transformed as a result, and like you can learn a lot more, and you get a lot of experience. Even with my most recent hobby is playing chess. Even with my most recent hobby, like a lot of my mindsets that I have, like they transfer over to me. From how like some of like the patience you need, some of the patience, the critical thinking, that all transfers to me. Even it's so different from like when I'm playing fighting games, and like the muscle memory transfers to me into how I learn other things like instruments, because like and now I understand like because I always call learning a fighting game is like learning an instrument, and each fighting game is a different instrument. So it's never too bad. And yeah, it's just. I always think that any and all skills from anything that you learn can be transferred to you as a person. Whether they're beneficial or not could be really specific or not. But I think for the most part they've been really, really beneficial for me because all of it like is just just helps me learn more like in other games and shit. So
is there a
but why are the arms red? Okay.
I'm not answering that question. That's lore you're not getting.
I will say though, is there video for B-roll purposes? Is there video of this violin off somewhere? Was this taped?
Yes. I was really young. I was like 15 or 16 when we had this violin off. I think Sharpie could send it to you, but
all right.
I think
Expect
Sharpie has it.
Expect a DM, Sharpie. I want the B-roll of this violin off if we turn this into a clip and we can play a video of the two of you going at the violin.
I think it was a combo breaker that we did this at. It was really fun.
That's funny. Okay, well, that is going to be it from us. Sonic, thank you for coming on. I much appreciate it, as always. If you're new to the show, if this is your first time tuning in, you can find find all of the previous episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Just search on YouTube. We are youtube.com/overcomegg. And then the Apple Podcast and Spotify links are on our Twitter, which is the host of the space at Overcome. Lots of great episodes there. Ludwig Ogren was here last week. And we've had several others who may be of your interest. So thank you all for tuning in. Much appreciated. We will be back on Monday. So this is a Monday and Wednesday thing. Thank you all again. Much appreciated. Thank you, Sonic.
Thank you much. Thank you, friends.
That's all for our show. Please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're new here and want to hear past episodes of Visionaries, you can find them there too. Special thanks to Prem Thadamkara and Sammy Daig for helping with this episode. We'll see you on Tuesday.